widespread rioting was wide of the mark. 3,500 police are on duty here today. They're backed by 1,500 soldiers. It is the biggest security operation in Australian history. But was it necessary or was it overkill? The police say the former, the protesters the latter.
I think their presence is unwarranted because we live in a democracy and we should be allowed to protest.
It's a little bit extreme, to say the least, I think, isn't it? I don't think so. I mean, we're just a bunch of peaceful protesters. It's a bit of a joke, really.
It's over the top.
I really hope that the police are here to protect us against some unseen evil force, because there's no other explanation for why there should be buses and paddy wagons.
Of the handful of protesters arrested, some were taken in not for acts of violence, but because of indecent exposure. Others, like university tutor Paddy Gibson, were wrongfully arrested. He was one of the 35 people banned from entering the apec exclusion zone. He was later released after police conceded he was outside the zone and not inside at the time of his arrest.
Start moving, please, sir. Start moving, please.
As the demonstration wound its way to Hyde Park, police hemmed the protesters in. Their lines were not to be broken. Even the elderly had to climb walls to make their way home. The lack of compassion clearly angering the crowds. Police chiefs have apologised to those inconvenienced, but they say the officers on the ground were doing the right thing.
We did restrict a number of people from coming back up Park Street until we believed it was safe for them to leave the park. Bear in mind we had intelligence that small groups of the protesters would break away and start causing trouble, smashing windows, and for their own safety a number of people were held back, only very briefly, and as soon as it was safe for them to be released, they were.
Damned if they do, damned if they don't. This is one day the New South Wales Police will be glad to see the back of.
Let's get an overall view of the summit now as we go to our chief political correspondent Karen Middleton, who's at the APEC Media Centre in Sydney. Karen, some progress made as we're reporting tonight, but how much of a distraction is it for John Howard that the leadership question seems to be dominating the headlines?
Well, Anton, it's a big distraction. He'll be extremely unhappy about this. Imagine having to deal with Australia's biggest ever summit, but being dogged by questions about his own leadership. I think he's effectively got until Tuesday to resolve this issue. We've got leaders in Australia beyond the summit on Monday, and the Canadian Prime Minister addresses the Parliament on Tuesday. Now, once he's gone, his party, Mr Howard's party, will be looking to him to make some kind of resolution. There are some telling me today that he needs to find some kind of a circuit breaker to improve their polling, and there are others who are saying that he does need to resolve the succession question, that he not only needs to establish some kind of path for Peter Costello, but he needs a public line to explain that.
So what's your gut feeling then, Karen? Will he or won't he resign?
Well, it would be very out of character, Anton. He is a fighter. He's not someone who likes to quit when his back is against the wall, so it would have to be something extraordinary for him to do that. He would only do that if he felt that he couldn't win and Peter Costello could win, I think. The question will also be which of them could do better. So he'll be taking a lot of counsel from people and trying to determine his response to that. I did speak to one senior government person today and I asked them, did he think that Mr Howard would resign?